Okay, this is 7th grade lesson 6.6. Our objective: students will explore strategies for finding the surface area of composite figures. The standard covered is 7G, 4, and 6. The page numbers out of the hardcover book are 287 through 282 through 287, and out of the practice journal 157 through 160. Today we're going to be working with composite solids or composite figures. And a composite solid is a figure that is made up of more than one solid. So this figure that we see here, we have something that looks like a crayon, and it is composed of a cylinder and a cone. The key thing to remember on this is that as we're finding surface area, these surfaces that touch this part and then the part here that you can't see are not considered surface area because they're not on the surface. Okay, that would be where they connect together. So you have to really pay attention to, as you're finding your pieces, what parts are actually on the surface. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with a figure that looks like this. So this is a real world scenario. It says you painted the steps of an apartment green. What is the surface area that you painted? So keep in mind, we're just looking at the green part, and that green part consists of, it looks like we've got a rectangle that is 20 by, this dimension is 24 going across here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find the area of that. So 20 times 24 is going to give me 480. I'm going to jot that in there. Okay, then I've got my next rectangle that is still 24 across here, but it's 7 high. So 7 times 24 gives me 168. Okay, my next rectangle is 10 by, once again, 24 across. So 10 times 24 gives me 240. And then my last one is that step going up again. It's going to be the same as this one here. It's 7 high and 24 across. So that, once again, is a 168. Okay, so in my combined total, my composite there, I have 480 plus 168 plus 240 plus 168. Now, if you wanted to take those 168s and put them together, you could do that, which would give me 336. So if I add all four of these together, it gives me 1,056. The dimensions were inches, and this is surface area, so it's squared. So here's just an example of, instead of having to find something where it's a three-dimensional shape. Yes, these steps are three-dimensional, but we weren't covering all of the sides. We were just covering the parts where you would walk on. Okay, so that's a real world scenario, understanding a little bit about composite shapes. Okay, so here's one that's a little more advanced. So we're looking at this, maybe it's like a house with a really, really high roof. Okay, so the pieces that we have, well, when I broke it apart, we have a pyramid that has a square base, it looks like, and a prism. Okay, so when we do our prism, surface area, we have to think, what sides are we going to need? Well, we're not going to be using this side here. Okay, we will include the bottom, even though maybe this is sitting on the ground. We're still going to include the bottom, because if you build a house, you do have flooring that would make up the bottom of your house. So we're going to go ahead and include that. So when we do our prism, well, I'm the one that likes to kind of draw over the things that I'm doing. So this is 4 by 6. So 4 times 6 would give me 24. Now, I'm going to remember that I also have one back here that's the same. So I have 24, and I'm just going to go times 2. And I can do that in my head, gives me my 48. Okay, then I have this side that's right here that is 6 by 4 also. Okay, so that's 24. And this side over here that we can't see is also 24. So another 24 times 2. Breaking this shape down into the pieces that we know. Okay, so the only other part that we haven't included would be the very bottom. Okay, this very bottom, because we're not going to include the top, because that's where these two pieces connect together. So we're not going to include this part. Okay, so the bottom is 6 by 6, which is 36. Okay, so for just the rectangular prism part, we have 132. So that's not our final answer. That's just for the rectangular prism. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do that pyramid. Okay, so once again, the base of the pyramid that we would normally find, that base, that rectangle, is not part of our surface area. It is once again where our prism and our pyramid connect. So we're not going to include that. So when we did pyramids, remember we would have a net, and this one we would have triangles coming off of each side. Okay, we're not including that part. Okay, so our dimensions on our triangles are 6, and then going up is 8. Remember, it's a triangle, so 6, whoops, and then I wrote a 6 instead of an 8. So 6 times 8 is 48, divided by 2 would give us 24 for each of these. And we have 4 triangles. So 24 times 4 is going to give me 96. So for my pyramid, I have 96. So we're going to go plus 96. And when I do that, I get 228. Dimensions are meters, and that's squared because it's surface area. So remember, when you do composite figures, you do not include the surface of where those two figures meet. Okay, we didn't include the top of the prism or the bottom of the pyramid. Okay, so here's another one. This time it looks like we have a cylinder and a cone. Okay, so for our cone, remember our cone consists of a circle, and then we guys had that little Pac-Man-y shape. I know that's a terrible Pac-Man. Okay, well our circle part is the part where it's connected. That's right there. So we are not going to include that. Okay, so we have to think back to our formula for that Pac-Man shape, and that was pi times radius times the slant. Okay, so pi is 3.14 times the radius is 3, and our slant is 5. So I'll go ahead and plug that in. And when I do that, so just for the cone part, I get 47.1. And that's yards squared right now. Okay, then my other shape that I have is the cylinder. So we have, normally when we do a cylinder, we have a top, and then we have a rectangle, and we have a bottom. Okay, once again, this top of the cylinder is where they connect, so I'm not going to do that one. Okay, so we're going to have to think back. Area of a circle is pi r squared, so our radius is 3. So 3 squared is 9 times 3.14, gives us 28.26. Okay, for our rectangle, we use our circumference, which is pi times diameter, and then we're going to take that times the height, which was 5. So pi times diameter, well, the diameter across here would be 3 plus 3 is 6, so 3.14 times 6 gives me 18.84 for this dimension. And then I'm going to go times 5 on that. Gives me 94.2, and then I still have the circle bottom, so 28.26. When I add those together, it gives me 122.46. Final step is to add these two. So we're going to go ahead and add those. So 122.46 plus 47.1 gives me a total of 169.56. Dimensions were yards, and this is surface area, so it's squared. Okay, key thing to remember, you're going to know all of these formulas. If you don't know them, you might have to jump back to those lessons and look up those formulas. Hopefully most of them you know because you've been working with them for some time. Okay, so this last one, we have two pieces. We have a triangular prism, and then we have a rectangular prism. So let's start with the rectangular prism. So we have a front and then a back that's the same that we can't really see. So that front side is 3 by 3. So that gives me 9, and there's 2 of those. So 9 times 2 is going to give me 18. Okay, this is my rectangular prism. I'm going to start with the easier of the two. Okay, so our next side kind of is this back side. And I'm just going to do this as 2 pieces instead of thinking of that as one big side right now. You could do that. For those of you that are a little more advanced, you could go ahead and combine this whole side. I don't want to confuse you, so I'm going to keep them separate. Okay, but for those of you that kind of think outside of the box, maybe some of you are seeing that, and that's okay. So on this side, I've got my dimensions are 3 here, same as this, and then 5, so that's 15 for this. Okay, there's another one up in the other side of that, so I have a 15 times 2, which is 30. And then I've got the bottom here that is 3 by 5, which is 15. Now, there's only one of those because, once again, the top is not part of, this part right here is not part of our surface area, so we're not going to include that. Okay, so for my rectangular prism part, we have 45 plus 18 is going to give me 63. So for right now, it's 63 centimeters squared. Okay, so now for our triangular prism. Okay, so I'm going to start with the base, which is a triangle. And I know lots of times you don't think of that as a base, but when you think of prisms, the base is the shape that goes all the way through. So for that, well, the height is 4, same as this. And this distance here is 3. Remember, this is a triangle. Okay, so 3 times 4 is 12, divided by 2 gives me 6. I also have that same one back here. So I have 6 times 2, which is putting me back at 12 right now. And this is my triangular prism. Okay. I have the back that is 5 by 4, which would give me 20. That does not have a match, so I'm just going to go ahead and write 20. The bottom we won't do, but then there's this, what I would call a slant. That's right here. You can't really see it, but the dimension on that is across the top, it's 5. And going down the slant, it's 5. So 5 by 5 is going to give me 25, and that's really a rectangle there. Okay, so when I add those together, 45, 57. Now we're going to go ahead and add these 2 pieces together. So 63 plus 57 gives me a total of 120 centimeters squared. Okay, key thing on working with composite figures is you have to make sure that you are not including where those 2 solids, those 2 3-dimensional solids meet. Other than that, good luck with this. You should know all of your formulas, and if you don't, then jump back and look in your previously learned sections. Good luck with this, guys.